Trying to smile, but the air is so heavy and dry. Strange voices are saying, what did they say? Things I can't understand. It's too close for comfort. This heat has gone right out of hand. It's a cruel, cruel summer, leaving me here on my own. It's a cruel summer. Now you're gone.
Good morning and welcome to the Red and Ed Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and I'm joined on the other side of the screen as we enjoy Elaine's extended, what's the word she's looking for? Her hiatus from the show. I'm joined by the wonderful Remso Martinez. Remso, welcome to the Red and Ed Show.
Redheads are overrated. It's time we throw some Puerto Rican flavor in here. What do you say?
No, we'll probably talk about AOC, so we talk about her enough anyway. It just works that way sometimes. Yeah, how's your day?
It's good. Only had to do half the day in the office. Came home to finish up the rest. It's a nice, cool summer day in Milwaukee, which is so weird being a Southerner to say it's a cool summer day. Like a cool summer day down south is like, 95. It's like in the mid 80s here. We might get some rain. It's been like this for the last couple of days. It's so weird, but I'm not complaining. I won't sound like I am. I would totally have this over 100% humidity and killer cicadas.
And as you know, we have seen quite a bit of that actually in this state. You are only the third person ever to be on the other side of the screen like this that's actually been in Wisconsin at the same time. I had a buddy of mine when I still lived in Kenosha. Did it, and then Mad Woman Media, what the hell's her name? Anissa? She was the other one, but she was just passing through because she was in the side of her husband's truck at the time. So yeah, not a lot of Wisconsin people over here, but you're a recent transplant too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's been a pretty, non-hostile conversion. All you needed to show me was beer, brats, and cheese, and it was pretty easy from there. I'm like the little kid from Up. It didn't take much for me to let the clown eat my hand.
Most viewers of this program will know that is a movie, and that means that I have never seen that. So, of course, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, wow. Do you hate America?
No, I've just only seen like 5 movies in my life.
Name them.
Oh, now you're going to put me on the spot. Now I got to come. It's been more than 5, but that's kind of the meme that we have is that, I almost never watch movies, and Elaine makes movie references, and then I have no idea what she's talking about.
Why do you do this to yourself?
I would much rather watch a TV series where I have a good half an hour block and then go do something else. I never see if I can find the time to sit down and watch a movie because something else comes up.
What's the difference between watching a movie and watching a TV series? Most of the time a TV series is going to get longer if you're binging it.
Yeah, but I can block it off easier. In short little chunks. What's that?
Who hurt you?
We talked about that on your show, which is coming out in a couple weeks.
Is that person responsible for you not liking movies?
No, it's just been a matter of trying to find the time to sit down and watch one, essentially.
You know what I genuinely love about movies? Not to get all philosophical. It's one of the few times where you can block off something and just dedicate yourself to a singular thing that doesn't care about your schedule. It's working on its own time. And it's one of the reasons why I love movie theaters, because it's one of the few opportunities that regular people get to turn off their phone and just be completely, brought into a different environment where the lights are off, everyone is quiet, everyone is focusing on just being entertained on this one thing, and you can just block everything out from the rest of the world.
Yeah, actually, I do enjoy that too, to be completely honest. And, one of the few movies I have seen, Inglourious Basterds, I watched it 7 times in the theater. Because, it was a great movie.
That's a good movie to see a bunch of times.
It's a great movie, and yeah, you had that experience. You were in the darkened theater. And I tried to watch it at home. It's not the same feeling.
I saw Snake Eyes, GI Joe Origins last Saturday. This weekend that we just finished up, I went and saw The Green Knight, which if you're into like Lord of the Rings, Arthurian legends and stuff like that, Green Knight was really freaking good. Dev Patel played Sir Gawain, and if he doesn't get an Oscar nomination, then you definitely know that nobody else deserves it too, because he did a fantastic job.
And I kind of said the same thing about Tarantino when I saw Inglorious Bastards. Like the first time I went in, I was like, just give him the Oscar now. That was a good one.
If he didn't get one for Pulp Fiction, that would really shock me. But I have a feeling that Pulp Fiction was a bit too edgy at the time when it came out in '92.
I have not seen that one either. I've seen pieces of that one, but I've not seen that one though.
I feel like everyone has at some point seen. Oh, I dragged my laptop. I feel like at some point everyone has at some point been exposed to a scene from Pulp Fiction, whether they know it or not. It's like that and Star Wars and
Yeah.
Titanic. I think those three films, like you can't go around without having been exposed to it at some point, even if it's unknowingly.
Yeah, and I have seen I've not seen Titanic, but I have seen every Star Wars movie in existence except for episode 9.
Episode 9 would be Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
It was not worth it.
That's kind of what I heard, and just after seeing episode 8, I'm like, come on, Ryan Johnson, you can't do this to me and expect me to go give you more money.
Well, I mean, I don't want to tell people that they shouldn't see films like that, especially if it's tied to a franchise they like, because like I didn't like episode 8, The Last Jedi. I thought it was atrocious. So because of that, I didn't see Solo, which came out. And I saw Solo when it was out on Netflix, and Solo is a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
So it
I
was
liked
really
it too.
good because it went from like, oh, so you've seen more than 5, or was it one of the 5?
The 5 is a meme. I have seen more than 5
Okay.
movies.
Okay, so he's seen 7, and Solo is one of them. And I mean, Solo was fantastic. So it's like you go from Force Awakens, which objectively was an entertaining movie. Then you've got Rogue One, which was probably my favorite Star Wars film. Then you go Last Jedi, where it just craters. And then you go up to Solo, where it's like, it's definitely better, but only because of the last comparison. Then when you get to the Rise of Skywalker, it's like you walk out of the theater and you want to punch a homeless person because you feel like the joy of your life has been robbed. So it's an emotional roller coaster for sure.
And it's hard to see that coming from the franchise because I've even seen the animated Clone Wars movie.
Oh yeah, I mean they at least tried with that. That's the sad thing.
Well, that was pre-Disney too, so.
That was. I mean, The Mandalorian is good. Like Disney has these things where it's like they want to appease everybody, but they know that they have to jump into like one camp or another. So it was like, okay, we're gonna sacrifice the films to the SJWs, and then we're gonna sacrifice The Mandalorian to the people who actually like buy our shit. So we will just keep throwing out red meat to both camps, and they'll keep talking about us, whether it's positively or negatively, and we'll still make money. So I think I'm just I'm Dr. Strangelove. I've just learned to love the bomb.
Well, we could
That's
sit
another
here
movie reference.
I didn't
Dr.
get that one.
Strangelove, or how I learned to chill out and love the bomb.
You lost me on that one. But we could sit here and wax poetic about movies all day, but we've got a bunch of news to get to as well off of this. We have got, what do we have on the agenda today? There's a bunch of it here. So, the rent and eviction moratorium is over as of today, and, well, you knew that there were going to be protests with that, so there were protests, including one outside of Nancy Pelosi's house. So we'll talk a bit about what this means and where we think this is going to go. We're not going to get a good handle on where this is going to go for another week or so, but we'll make some predictions and see where this is going to go. The January 6th Commission started with an emotional day of hearings, including a police officer who claims that he was called a large amount of racial slurs, in spite of the fact that there's no video of him being called racial slurs. But we'll talk a bit about what went on there, and we'll listen to this voicemail that was left for Officer Fanone as well, and see if we think it's valid or not. I think it's kind of bullshit, but I want to see what you think off of that. So we'll talk just a bit about that. The Delta variant is here and it's everywhere. We'll speculate on what some of that means, some of the mask mandates that are coming back, as alluded to at the beginning of the show. Some companies that are firing employees over the requirement for vaccines, and the NFL. We'll talk just a bit about that and their practice squads. The Olympics are here. We'll talk a bit about some of the controversies that are with that. We'll look at medal counts, the Simone Biles controversy, which I don't understand, and I still don't. So hopefully you can shed a little bit of light on that for me. And the Norwegian team that didn't want to wear bikini bottoms for a sport that's not even in the Olympics, but everyone thought was in the Olympics. We'll go over a bit of that. Lastly, we will finish out talking about the infrastructure bill, what happens there and what happens next off of that. And I've got a little bit of surprise stupidity for you at the end. I think it's going to be entertaining for you. I think it's going to be entertaining for the audience as well. Thanks. It's going to be all this and more over on the Red Net Show. Wow, I can't talk today or do my own intro. Thanks for checking us out live over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. And get in the chat because we will take comments in between topics. So if you've got any questions, make sure you get them all in. And if you want to check us back, you can't catch us live. You can catch us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Check us out on both of those platforms. Subscribe on both those platforms. And check us out anywhere you need to. You are new here. You and I have had a conversation on air already, but that will not air yet. So for those of my audience that are not familiar with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Why wouldn't they be familiar with me?
I don't know.
I don't know. They need to make better decisions. But if you've been making poor decisions your entire life up until now, host of On the Run over at the We Are Libertarians Network, host of Free Exchange, a product of the Badger Institute, as well as the weekly show, Second Print Comics, where if you're tired of all the news and politics, we can talk movies, comics, and pop culture. So, other than that, I'm a published author. I'm a best-selling author of Stay Away from the Libertarians, a comedic nonfiction history of the libertarian movement post-Ron Paul. And about a year and a half ago, came out with my first novel, How to Succeed in Politics and Other Forms of Devil Worship. I'm the world's worst travel host. I'm a non-financial financial show, and everything in between. So really, everything is just about me exploring the world around us, discovering new topics, rediscovering the fun in the process. So that's me in a nutshell.
And make sure you check out On the Run as well, because what did we decide? A couple weeks is going to be? And
it's going to be August 19th.
Your wonderful host is going to be making an appearance on that, on what was a very emotional episode for me. That was probably the first time I've talked about a lot of what we talked about since I came back home.
Yeah, everyone thinks that my show is just bullshit and aliens, but, sometimes we get into some pretty heavy topics.
So make sure you guys go and check that out. So we've got some news to get into, including a little bit of lightning round to talk about.
My body is ready.
Your body is ready. See, you still drink. I don't.
Mahayam.
Well, let's get into this then at least. Starting here with CNN. Biden announces end of combat mission in Iraq as he shifts U.S. foreign policy focus. The story that got completely ignored this week. Like, it popped up for a day, and then everybody forgot about it. A little bit of background here. President Biden agreed on Monday to formally conclude U.S. combat mission in Iraq by the end of the year, another step toward winding down the two prolonged military engagements that began in the years following the September 11th attacks. Biden told reporters at the Oval Office, alongside Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi, that the U.S. mission in Iraq will shift. The president. I think things are going well, man. Our role in Iraq will be to be available to continue to train, to assist, to help, and deal with ISIS as it arrives. But we're not going to be, by the end of the year, in a combat mission. Which was news to me because I didn't even know we were in a combat mission in Iraq at this point. I thought it was just an advisory position.
Only Joe Biden could make George W. Bush look smart.
Do tell.
I mean, I remember I was sitting in my AP US history class my junior year of high school, and I was the only non-left-wing person there. And my total commie teacher came over and said, look, Remso, Obama just ended the war in Iraq. Isn't that great? And I'm like, we're not really leaving. And he's like, yeah, we did, because I saw it on CNN. All the tanks came out and all the soldiers were putting up peace signs, and Iraq is fixed now. And then a week later, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, right before it had really transitioned into ISIL and ISIS, went ahead and car bombed Baghdad and killed 80 people. And I remember the Onion article that said 80 people die from car bomb in Baghdad, and it's not our problem. And flash forward 10 years later, it's still our problem. AQI turned into ISIL, then they were ISIS, and I'm pretty sure Hasbro was like, no, you can't be Cobra next. So then they were just IS, Islamic State. And, after us being told that World War III was going to happen, Donald Trump comes in and completely obliterates them. And then al-Baghdadi is literally killed by a husky. The fact that we're still here, it has nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction that died a decade ago. It has nothing to do with curing sectarian violence. We basically gave up on that when we destabilized Libya and invaded Syria. We just need to understand that sometimes if you break something in a store, you're not going to be able to buy it. So just fucking run.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. But the houseplant in chief got a couple of other quips in here, reading from the Daily Wire, and we'll actually listen to the video off of this. Biden tells a reporter, "You're such a pain in the neck. But I'm going to answer your question." Let's listen.
Veterans Affairs is going to have a mandate.
You are such a pain in the neck, but I'm going to answer your question because you've known each other for so long. It has nothing to do with Iraq. The answer, no. I'll answer your question. Yes, Veteran Affairs is going to, in fact, require that all docs working in facilities are going to have to be vaccinated.
Thank you, guys.
So, of course, he didn't want to answer the question because it had nothing to do with the meeting that he was in. But, yeah, we'll talk a little bit later on in the program about the vaccination requirement for the VA. But, this isn't the first time he said something like that to a reporter.
No, this is like the third time this month. But at least he don't mean. I mean, people give Trump a lot of shit for how he treated the media, but honestly, he dealt with them far too much. He gave them every conference. He spoke to them one-on-one more than any press secretary did. But in the media's defense, he went through press secretaries like Pez dispensers. Obama kicked out the AP. Went 6 months without really a press conference, went ahead and had Ben Rhodes in the State Department as the National Security Advisor destroy every major outlet's foreign office. And then he went ahead and tried to arrest James Rosen while spying on Fox News. If anything, Biden is just continuing the great, Democrat tradition of just gaslighting the media into having them think they're your friends.
Yeah. And then, we saw
it's like Chris Brown, Rihanna. It's like, no, Chris hits me because he loves me. That's how they sound each time they defend him.
Well, he was just joking when he said he wanted to run the reporter over with the electric F-150.
Run, Rihanna, run. From Fox News. Where was she from?
Rihanna?
No, not Rihanna. We know she's from heaven. She's a goddess above. Where's the reporter from?
I believe that was an MSNBC reporter.
It's not even right wing.
Yeah.
She's probably going to go vote for him 3 times if he's still alive in a couple years. That's the thing about it. Everyone else heard him, just insult her. And all she heard was, oh my gosh, President Biden knows who I am.
All right, we got to keep this one moving here. We got to talk a little bit about AOC, everybody's favorite progressive socialist. AOC says she wants to abolish our carceral system. Reading from Fox News, AOC says she wants to abolish the U.S. carceral system during a campaign event for Ohio congressional candidate Nina Turner on Saturday. Let's listen.
I want to abolish our carceral system that's designed to trap black and brown men. I want justice. I want peace. And I want prosperity. That's what I want.
Can I get a hello, somebody?
Hello.
Can I get an amen? Is carceral an actual thing?
Yes.
Is it
I feel like she actually has to
pressure?
look these words up now. What's that?
Is it like transnappable pressure?
It is not the carceral system. It is the prison system in our country. That's actually the proper word for it. I don't know why nobody. Well, I know why nobody knows it, but it's easier to say prison system. But
I have a genuine question. When
what's
they
up?
say abolish prisons, what do they really mean?
Get all their friends out of prison and then put all the right wing people into them.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's one of the other comments that came up with that, because I played this video on Contemporary too, was when she said she wants to abolish the carceral system that preys on black and brown people. Friend of the show, Quest Fanning, pointed out the fact, oh, you mean like the welfare system?
I mean, the prison system for a large part is just the welfare system manifested.
Yeah. We got some Fauci and Paul drama here. Rand Paul sends official criminal referral on Anthony Fauci to the DOJ. Reading from The Hill, Rand Paul made good on his threat to refer Anthony Fauci, chief medical advisor to President Biden and director of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, to the Justice Department for allegedly lying to Congress about funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And because it's a Merrick Garland Justice Department, this is the end of the story.
Sounds about right.
Any thought on that one?
I mean, if only we had gone and asked the Wuhan lab that deals with coronavirus and that stuff what they thought about this. I don't know what's more malpractice. The fact that the lab leak theory was absolutely protected for about a whole year by the media and by the government, or that they just maybe now have actually taken a moment to actually look at it and they're suddenly like, oh, that makes a lot of sense now. I can't tell if it's by intent or by idiocy.
I have no idea. Facebook and tech giants to target attacker manifestos, far-right militias in database. This is from Reuters. Counterterrorism organization formed by some of the biggest U.S. tech companies, including Facebook and Microsoft, is significantly expanding the types of extremist content shared between firms in a key database aiming to crack down on material from white supremacists and far-right militias, the group told Reuters. Until now, the Global Internet Forum to Counterterrorism's database was focused on videos and images from terrorist groups on a UN list, and so has largely consisted of content from Islamic extremist organizations such as the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban. Over the next few months, the group will add attacker manifestos, often shared by sympathizers after white supremacist violence, and other publications and links flagged by the UN initiative Tech Against Terrorism. It will use lists from intelligence sharing group Five Eyes, adding URLs and PDFs from more groups, including the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, and the Neo-Nazis.
Huh. Huh. As a verified share of extremist content on Facebook, who needs enemies like the Patriot Act when you have Facebook?
When you have friends like Zuckerberg. And I've long said that if you're going to post your manifesto on Facebook, you deserve to be caught. You deserve to be cracked down on, because they're going to turn around and share that right with the government as soon as they have the chance to. You know full well that's going to happen.
Oh, I mean, they don't even hide it, which is so funny, because we go ahead and say this to normal people out there in the rest of the world land, and they're like, no, that would never happen. Stop saying that. Extremists. And then you literally show it to them, and then because they can't read, they call you a racist and a psycho conspiracy theorist. So, maybe we deserve all this.
It could be. But we don't deserve what Blizzard did to us, and now I can't go play Blizzard games. Reading from Polygon.com, Activision Blizzard employees to walk out in support of harassment lawsuit. This is by Nicole Carpenter. This was Wednesday, I believe. Activision Blizzard employees will stop, yes, it was Wednesday, will stop work on Wednesday in protest of an abhorrent and insulting response from company leadership to a lawsuit that exposed serious allegations of sexism and harassment at the game publisher. The lawsuit, filed July 22nd by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, described a company culture that allowed for gender-based discrimination and constant sexual harassment. A 2-year investigation into the company alleged that women were held back from promotions for various reasons, including the possibility that they may eventually take maternity leave, and that female employees were subject to derogatory comments about rape and other demeaning behaviors.
Why would you work somewhere where you're being treated like that?
I don't know.
Like, I get it. I get it. Like, we've been having this argument for years. Like, no one should be treated like shit in the workplace. But it gets to the point where it's like, you know, either women are completely incapable of bringing attention to this, or because we live in such a dictatorial, fascistic patriarchy that, you know, there's no other way around it. But then again, if there was no other way around it, why even try and file HR complaints? Post the tweets, post the text messages, post the emails, record the motherfuckers, take them out, because no one likes an asshole. If somebody is treating you like that, you know what? Shame them. Do it publicly. But this drag out thing where you're not only going to harm customers, but you're going to harm other employees who had nothing to do with any of this. I'm getting so tired of this. There's such bullshit behavior. I believe a woman can be president one day, but none of the women that wait for this stuff to happen. And those were the last comments I ever said on the internet.
Oh no, we can make this worse. Trust me. From Cointelegraph, digital currency may be an answer to help the unbanked, Senator Warren says. Senator and former U.S. presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren believes that digital asset industry may be a tool to tackle some challenges of the traditional financial system. A known skeptic of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Warren appeared to have softened her stance on the crypto industry in a Squawk Box interview on Wednesday, stating that digital currencies could be an instrument to bank the unbanked, which has been something that the progressives have had a hard on for at least 4 years.
You mean they're not going to go ahead and turn the post office into a bank now?
No, I think they've finally figured out that's a bad idea and nobody's going to trust it.
You must have gotten an IBM donation.
Well, Pomp tweets out, LMAO, E. Warren went on TV and compared Bitcoin to drugs. You can't make this up. Let's listen.
Senator Warren joins us right now. She, of course, chairs the Banking Subcommittee on Economic Policy. Senator, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It was fascinating to watch the hearing yesterday. And here's where I wanted to start the conversation. We had Mike Novogratz on the program in the last hour. He's in the crypto business, in the industry. And one of the big questions is how to regulate the industry, but also when to regulate the industry, because there is an element where this is still early stage. It's still startup. And how much regulation do you want to put on now in the same kind of breath that we would have had a conversation about should have we regulated the internet more or not in the 1990s?
You know, you might look at this another way. Look at the lesson from history about when do we regulate drugs. As long as people can sell snake oil, it turns out that nobody really invested in having good drugs that were safe and that helped people. And once we really had an FDA that stood up and that said, you know what, we're going to test these drugs before they go on the market. We're going to assure the public that they are safe. Then look what happened. We got a whole lot more investment and obviously a much bigger market that helped the entire world.
Your thoughts?
The FDA refused to review HIV and AIDS treatments because the wrong lobbyists got paid off. Like this is like I'm as an actual Native American, I'm tired of this white woman trying to tell us all what to think.
Sorry about that. We had some autoplay going on in the background there.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is so funny. 2 weeks ago, she's saying that Michael Saylor is setting a bad precedent for the business world who are using their cash to go ahead and buy Bitcoin. And now she wants to go ahead and, bank the unbanked. All she wants to do is become the bank. That's why all this talk of a national currency, Fed coin, all this stuff, like it's terrifying the shit out of people. And it's because, there's a war on cash. We're already seeing it, the phase out of coins and the phase out of cash, and the fact that you have the Biden administration telling banks to go after people who are, i.e., political dissidents and stuff like that. They're being able to track our money in a way which I think is secretly a blessing, because all it does is it makes cryptocurrency more and more important. When I have relatives who are in their 60s and 70s telling me that they want to go ahead and understand this whole crypto thing, it's not because they genuinely love the idea. It's because they're becoming fearful of what's to come.
Good point. And yeah, the government wants to make their own crypto too on top of all this, and I got a feeling we're going to see that in the next couple of years.
As a real Native American, I should warn everyone that you should never trust a white liberal woman that wants to make a deal with you with your money.
We talked about AOC once before, and we're going to talk about her again in just a second here, because, and I can't believe I'm actually going to read this headline out loud for the second time, because I did this once on Contemporary already too. Susan Sarandon protests outside of AOC's office. We're losing hope here that you represent us. Susan Sarandon was seen protesting outside New York Democrat Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office in New York on Monday. The video obtained by The Independent, the 74-year-old actress, used a megaphone to address the gathering crowd. Sarandon expressed her disappointment at AOC and the squad. I'm here to say that the squad, especially AOC, who, did make a lot of promises, that we still have faith in you, and they would like to see if you have a better plan than we're able to see. Please share it, Sarandon said. She added, if there's a pathway that you've got that we're not aware of, please share it, because we're losing hope that you represent us.
Wow, is Alyssa Milano not available?
Apparently not.
My gosh, the America today is not the left versus right. It's the left versus the left. And I can't tell what's the difference between horrifying and hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, even when we talk about the eviction moratorium in a couple of minutes, that's still the same thing. Like, AOC is like, well, we have to blame Democrats for this one because it's not going to be Republicans, puppy.
Oh, boy. We live in the best timeline.
We do. A couple more here. Another one from Fox. House Republicans introduced draft bill to strip big tech companies of Section 230 protections. Kathy McNorris Rogers and Jim Jordan have drafted legislation that would remove 230 protections from big tech companies and require them to report any content moderation decisions to the FTC in what sources familiar with the draft measure say would be a robust reform of the Communications Decency Act. Now, I don't know if you like the censorship that's going on or don't. I have a feeling that you don't. But if you think that this censorship is bad, take fucking 230 out of there and then tell me how bad censorship is. What's your take on this?
If they just enforced it as is, we would never have this problem, because Facebook and Twitter voided their own standards when they became editorials. So it's not the government getting involved. The problem is it's government failure to enforce their own laws. It's like if people just started going around committing murders in front of cops, and then cops didn't arrest anyone, and then they're like, you know what we should do? We should go ahead and adjust what murder means and then go after these people. So then murder becomes this giant ambiguous thing that doesn't even mean murder anymore. It just means something entirely different. Why don't you just enforce the freaking law as it is? And besides, I don't take any of these Republicans seriously, because if they actually did care about this, I want to see who's signing on the bill, who's sponsoring the bill, and how many of them are still paying for ads on Facebook and Twitter.
Which will be fun, because you can actually see that on congress.gov. I make use of that very often, actually.
What was funny was you had this one candidate for governor in Virginia before I left who was saying that, we need to fight big tech, as he was literally paying for Facebook ads. And it's like, oh, buddy, you don't need to tell everyone you're stupid. You're showing it.
Speaking of stupid, space tourism tax. Congressman announces new plan to go after Blue Origin launch. Shortly after Bezos, the world's richest man, completed his first spaceflight, Representative Earl Blumenauer of Oregon announced he's working on a plan for a new tax targeting space tourism. The acronyms always get me off of this. The Securing Protections Against Carbon Emissions Tax Act, or Space Tax Act, would create new excise taxes on commercial space flights with human passengers for non-research purposes. Space exploration isn't a tax-free holiday for the wealthy. Just as normal Americans pay taxes when they buy airline tickets, billionaires who fly into space will produce nothing of scientific value should also do the same, and then some. What do you got?
We should treat space like international waters. If you want to fly up there, marry a robot, and do meth with a Filipino prostitute in front of children, it's your goddamn right.
I suddenly have a new life goal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Gates and Green and Louis Gohmert as well got into the news this week because, according to The Hill, they were turned away from a jail to visit January 6 defendants. Reading from The Hill, Matt Gates, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was a plant, and Louis Gohmert on Thursday were turned away from the D.C. Department of Corrections, where they tried to visit accused January 6 rioters. Video shows officers who said the group was trespassing and obstructing the entrance into the facility, denying the trio entry. Let's watch.
Trespassing by attempting to come into this correctional facility.
People that vote on whether or not to fund you at what level, and we're trespassing.
I understand that.
My
I'll see if my
gosh, the
supervisor's
government is
available.
upside
Can
down.
you please go ask your supervisor?
You right now are obstructing entrance into this facility. This is the way people enter. You're obstructing our
Right.
We won't obstruct the entrance,
Nope,
but
we'll
we're not
help
trespassing.
anybody.
Now that's what you're doing.
Okay, we'll clear the entrance. We'll clear the path.
Trespassing.
So, looking at this,
I
and
love
watching
Louis Gohmert.
watching a couple
I'll
other
help
videos.
anyone who wants to come in.
It looked like they were visiting during regular visiting hours, advertised and posted video visiting hours rather. They were masked up. They're, I believe, vaccinated, at least some of them as well. So I don't know what the problem is or if there is something that's actually trying to be hidden. I know that at the point that Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she couldn't go in and visit them, everybody else who previously told AOC that she was a hero for going down to Texas and helping the people reminded Marjorie Taylor Greene that this prison is not in her district and she needs to take care of her district, which I found funny.
They should have just said those in custody were dreamers.
Nice. And I mean, I've heard reports of people, like the only person that I know that was involved with the Capitol Selfie Fest, you know, he's out on his own. He just bought a house and he doesn't seem to, he's worried that he's going to prison very much. But, you know, there are some of these people who are sitting in here not charged that are just waiting around in solitary confinement off of this.
I was working in an office in Arlington when Brett Kavanaugh's confirmations were going on, and I went ahead and actually looked at the videos recently of them storming Senate elevators and going into offices and knocking stuff over and threatening people and harassing them. And honestly, I would say that the way that like Moms Demand Action, Emily's List, Code Pink, and all those other commie organizations acted on the Senate grounds during the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearing were just as bad, if not worse, than the January 6th riot because it lasted for days.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like there was another protest on the Capitol steps over the eviction moratorium, and I looked at that and I said, "Isn't that an insurrection at this point?"
Remember that time the government killed all those college students at Kent State?
Mm-hmm.
Like we should stop taking lessons in morality from the most morally bankrupt amongst us.
Speaking of the most morally bankrupt amongst us, that's a great transition there, by the way. This came out, and Tim Pool tweeted this out, but I'm going to read this verbatim. The views I'm about to express do not reflect the views of Turns of Pages Productions or the Red and Edge Show. Flora Gill tweeted out, and
maybe they do. We don't know yet.
No, they don't. Flora Gill tweets out, "Someone needs to create porn for children. Hear me out."
Yeah, that's totally not us.
Young teens are already watching porn, but they're finding hardcore aggressive videos that give a terrible view of sex. They need entry-level porn, a softcore site where everyone asks for consent and no one gets choked, etc. This tweet has since been deleted, but that doesn't mean that this picture that Tim Pool took of this, the screenshot, hasn't been shared around the internet 10 million times at this point.
You know, the Inuits would take their elderly at the end of their lives, and instead of caring for them and just waiting for them to suck up resources and die naturally or get eaten by a polar bear, they would stick them on a block of ice and break it off and push them into the ocean. And I think we need to bring that back. Not for the elderly, just for people that want to create appropriate porn for children.
Now, Flora Gill did try to push back on this and tell us that she only meant, of course, I only meant 14, 15, 16-year-olds, which doesn't make this any better. I'm sorry.
That's just doubling down. She's definitely getting pushed onto the iceberg.
Why do they have to bring the kids into this? Why not do what you can to stop the porn?
You know what she said to herself before she pressed send tweet? She said to herself, this is a good idea.
Well, that was not a good idea.
No. Onto the iceberg now.
All right, we got just a couple more here. Harris's bad polls triggered Democratic worries from The Hill. Vice President Harris has some ground to make up in order to be perceived more favorably by the public, a complicating factor for the Biden admin as it maps out its midterm strategy. 6 months into office, polls indicate Harris is viewed less favorably than President Biden, which is standard, of course, for a vice president usually, actually. She's also made some tactical missteps outside of the White House that Democrats say show she hasn't quite yet found her bearings. Vice presidents historically do not outperform the leader at the top of the ticket, but her lower ratings haven't gone unnoticed, mostly because there is a good chance that before 2024, statistically, we might have to say President Harris.
Why do you liberals not like her?
She's
I genuinely don't. Yeah, but they love cops. That's why they gave us 2 cops. The guy who made the bills to pay the cops more and to get more cops to arrest more poor black people, and then the woman who was smiling while she was doing it. So this whole thing that they don't like cops, it's got to be more. Did Biden dress in blackface or something? Because, you can literally kill children out of the womb, and that's okay. But if you wear blackface, that's a problem. So I want to know, what did Kamala do? What was her social sin?
I think it was after Tulsi stunk her claws into her, sharpened her claws into Kamala, and reminded her of the busing laws, the drug laws, and the fact that she actually was a cop. We can sit back and say,
but liberals went after Tulsi too when Kamala became the VP. I mean, we're not dealing with the brightest people here. And this is coming from somebody that voted for Trump. I knew exactly what I was getting into. I never denied it. He was horrendous on many things, but I miss Orange Man. I think about him every day and I wish he was back. And at the end of the day, I'll still say that at least he wasn't freaking Kamala Harris.
That's fair. I voted for him too, but I don't think I would vote for him a third time. I really don't.
He should come back riding on a white horse into DC.
Yeah, you really want to trip off some of these religious nuts out there?
I'm just trying to see who will react. I just want to see who's coming back. And on the 4th day, he shall rise.
Speaking of that, the Justice Department and the
Judas Pence. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Biden admin can't get enough of Trump because Trump tax returns must be released by the IRS to Congress. Justice Department says. This is from CNBC. The income tax returns of former President Trump must be released by the IRS to Congress, the Department of Justice said on Friday. The DOJ's legal counsel said the Democrat-led House Ways and Means Committee had made the request with legitimate legislative purposes to see Trump's tax returns with stated objective of assessing how the IRS audits president's tax returns. Which sounds to me like a massive fucking workaround to say we can't demand these actually by the 4th Amendment, so we're going to use the excuse that we're trying to make a law to get them.
Trump should become where do all the rich people put their money? He should become a citizen of the Cayman Islands.
He should just buy the Cayman Islands.
He should buy Greenland. Get it right.
He should do that too. Can he do both?
I think he could. He's already king of Florida. Why not?
Well, and I know the other side of this too, and it's another. I didn't put it in the lightning round, but there was another one that I read this morning that apparently he's owed $1 million in tax return from 2011 for overpaying his property taxes in the Chicago Trump Tower, and Illinois is trying to block it.
Did he declare bankruptcy that time?
I don't believe so.
Huh. He
But
should never pay it.
Yeah. No, Illinois owes him, not the other way around.
Oh, Illinois owes him?
Yeah.
He's probably laughing at Illinois. He's like, they need the money more than I do. Have you seen Chicago? Their mayor's a goldfish. A goldfish can't run a city. Please.
But, I'm guessing that the fact that they want to block that means they don't want the narrative to get out that he actually overpaid in taxes, because that was something that Tim Pool harped on in the beginning. These rich people, they all they do is they come out and they pay extra in taxes just to make sure.
You could tell the difference between like a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset, because like a person with a scarcity mindset will say, I don't want to raise because I don't want to move up in tax brackets. And a person with an abundance mindset will be like, I want to get to the point in my life where my biggest concern is taxes. And, I think it comes down to a difference of mindsets in that situation, because it's like, they think that $11 million is a lot to this guy. And really, it's not.
Yeah. And I've actually heard somebody say that. Like, I worked with a guy. It was in a union shop, too, which means there was no chance of that happening. But he came in to the boss and said, hey, can you just give me a little pay cut? All you have to do is drop me 50 cents because otherwise, I'm going to start losing my benefits, my government benefits.
I wish I had so much money I could just say, I wonder how I'm going to be able to keep more of my tax money, because that's such a like, how much money do you have to really stress about it? And don't get me wrong, I think taxation is wrong. I've been fucked by the IRS for things like that, and it's like, at least at that point, it's like at least I'm making that much money to have to worry about it.
Yeah. All right, let's grab some live chat here, and then we will get into the eviction moratorium here. Sergeant Peterson is here. Says Disney ruined Star Wars. Harvey McLeod says it's here. I'm so scared. I don't know what Harvey McLeod is scared about. Eviction moratorium ends today. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. We'll talk about Simone Biles a little bit later, so we'll hold off on that comment. Harvey McLeod says, hey, at least W is charming in his vain stupidity. Biden, it's just sad. Ron Helton says, I can't think of one press secretary who's held that position for the entire 4 years. There's always been some turnover in that position. Let's see. Katie Zed is here. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Ron Helton says, come on, the justice system is not about imprisoning black people. It's a huge grift for the lawyers and government who steal from those who cannot defend themselves. No victim, no crime. Sewell is here in the armored half-track. Welcome on in. He says, crypto is a meme and it already glows in the dark. Susan Sarandon is a special lady, says Harvey McLeod. Also, she wasn't going to vote on someone based on gender. Ron Health says, I need to market an AOC condom. Only you can prevent the birth of dumbasses.
I'd buy the fuck out of that.
Let's see. Ben Wild is here. It says, how about you avoid the tax by making the tax due until you return?
That makes sense.
Ben Wild says, moms demand action, mostly raw-dogged behind the Applebee's dumpster. That's what this stream has become.
Huh. You want to give another disclaimer?
Katie says she sucked dick to get her job.
She did?
Apparently that would have been Kamala, I'm guessing.
We should ask her again.
Katie said, did you mean Kamala when you said she sucked dick to get her job? Harvey McLeod says, F Chicago. Patrice Too Real, which is a new name in here. Welcome on in. He was the first president that became a concept of I don't know what that word is. Definitely a constant trending topic, even when not president. No one says pro-Biden. LOL. Harvey McLeod says, 8 no C condoms for AOC. Katie Z says, yes, Kamala. All right, let's talk eviction moratorium, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, as we stand right now, as we sit and see at this point, the eviction moratorium is over. Now, the eviction moratorium has been in place since September of last year, so we've got a good 11 months of situations where people could not be evicted if they were late on their rent or any other situation. The thought process behind the moratorium being that the CDC did not want to release a bunch of people out into the streets where they could possibly live in homeless encampments and catch the coronavirus. That seems to be what everything else went off of this. There was a brief battle for this leading up to this. Now, of course, we knew all the way back in October that this was going to become a problem. But a brief battle arose at the beginning of the month where the House started demanding action for the eviction moratorium. It didn't happen. The Realtors Association took a case to the Supreme Court asking the eviction moratorium to end 2 weeks early. The Supreme Court denied it, but said that it would take an act of Congress to continue it, taking the ability away from the CDC, which is a private and public company, and the executive branch. And now we sit here with the moratorium expired and millions of people now facing eviction across the country. I think they said something like 11 million adults are under the crosshairs of being evicted right now. That number seems really high to me, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm optimistic. What do you think off of this?
This is the same government that said that unemployment in the United States was under 3% when Obama was president. Meanwhile, you had a record number of people who were self-identifying as unemployed. You know, no amount of giving these people a pass, no amount of printing them money is going to do anything. And we saw this in 2020 twice under a Republican Senate. The most giant transfer of wealth in, I'll say, human history, because what you had was massive printing. We printed more in 1 year than we had ever printed before, and we doubled the size of not double the size of national debt, but we doubled the size of what we were typically printing within a fiscal year. So then that means everything that you had in your savings account, all the cash you had on hand, it hasn't been an asset for years. It hasn't been something to help you even in a liquid state, but now it was like a super liability. So now you're poor. Now you could be making the same amount of money salary-wise, but you're working the same amount for less buying power in the grand schemes. And people weren't spending their stimulus checks on rent and food and stuff like that. No, they were spending it on Walmart and Amazon. So then we just give all our money to these giant corporations, and they know that cash is a super mega giant crack liability for them. So then they're going around buying assets. BlackRock, one of the largest investment firms in the country, is buying 8 million residential homes at the end of August. So, you know, these people can't help themselves. And it's like, you're not going to take the rest of us down with you. I don't want this bill to pass. And people are going to be like, well, you don't want people to have houses. It's like, no, I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot for them.
Right.
I'm not. But who has a say, really?
Yeah. And I've been interested in this story for a long time, ever since they announced that there was an eviction moratorium, because I have to wonder what's going to happen when this goes. Now, I did not think, and the number I read from WISN earlier here in Wisconsin, the number of people in our state is something like 166,000 people could be evicted in Wisconsin alone.
In a state of 5 million people?
Yeah.
I want to know, like the average median income of your average Wisconsinite is I think it's between like $40,000 and $45,000. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the number of people who are on unemployment, we have more than 5% unemployment currently. Tony Evers went ahead and added an extra $600 to unemployment benefits. Meanwhile, I see McDonald's up the road offering a $200 cash signing bonus for taking a part-time job. It seems to me that unemployment now is a choice.
The ones in Janesville are offering $50 just to come in for the interview, just to fill out the application.
Oh, I've been talking about it on the run recently for several episodes. You can go to Domino's right now, and whether you're doing full-time or part-time, you'll get a $500 signing bonus to go deliver pizzas. Like, what the
shit? Where do I sign
what the
up?
hell? I know. I've been every weekend. I'm like, I could be delivering pizzas with this time. That's a better deal than if you're just doing Uber Eats. I would rather go put on Domino's uniform. They're going to give $500. You just owe them 30 hours earned in order to get your bonus. It's not that bad.
Oh Christ! I mean,
You know what I could do with $500? That's 17 shares of AT&T.
That's where you're going with that? That's like 200 cases of beer.
I love Wisconsin. I'm not of Wisconsin.
But going back to this, what does happen though when you start to throw 166,000 people in a state of 5 million people out onto the streets on cities that are already having a homeless crisis? I don't know if you've ever, I know you say you're over in Milwaukee. I don't know if you ever go over to Madison, but if you go downtown, there are people that are just well-dressed and living on the streets in Madison. It's a career choice in Madison to live on the street.
Oh, you had tent cities in D.C. And you go up and ask a homeless person who's not an apparent crazy person, they'll just straight up tell you, it's better for me just to panhandle and not pay taxes and live on the street because most of my meals are for free because restaurants want to get rid of me. That's not one conversation. That's not two conversations. That's 5 years of many conversations of homeless people in D.C. And it's like, for all those people that were clamoring, and I knew wealthy people who had 6-digit earning homes in Northern Virginia, one of the wealthiest areas of the United States, I remember one family, they made a collective net $300,000 a year, and they put up a GoFundMe to replace their refrigerator during the middle of the pandemic because they didn't have the money and they extended their credit because they were already living a very luxury life past what they could actually afford to live.
Yeah.
And, it's like when you have people like that were crying out for the $1,200 stimulus checks, it's like, did you not think you were ever going to have to pay your rent again? I don't want to sound like an asshole. I feel bad for people in that position, but it's been more than a year now. And, these landlords, it's not like we're living in a feudal system. Those landlords are not rich people either. And they need to make money off of their asset.
Mm-hmm. And that's, one of the differences I point out. Now, yes, where I lived in Kenosha, I could point to the houses in Kenosha when I lived down there that were in my neighborhood, because I lived in a very, very bad neighborhood in Kenosha. And I could point to the houses, I said, that building is owned by somebody who's never actually seen the building and never been in Kenosha. That one is owned by somebody in another country. That one's owned by a Polish businessman in Chicago. And that one is owned by somebody who lives in Milwaukee, right down the road, right, all four of them right in a row. Well, I think my building was the only one on the block that was owned by somebody who lived close by. The person that owned the duplex that I lived in lived next door. And everything else on there was Section 8, and it was owned by somebody from out of town. So,
You want to know why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer?
Go ahead.
It's because the poor choose to make the rich richer.
That I can see. And now, like this building that I live in now, it's just a small 8-unit building in the middle of a redacted small town that I'm never going to say the name of on air, even though I think a lot of people actually know where it is already. It's a middle-aged husband and wife couple, very progressive couple, but regardless, I mean, for a fact that they're putting their life savings into this to go. They're not making big money off of this.
My landlords live on the property. And they make a good amount. I live in a pretty good apartment complex, but they live what looks to be the lifestyle of a middle class family.
Yeah. Well, like the ones that own this building, he could go out if he was making the big money, like they all say, and pay a contractor to come in and redo. There was the apartment across the hall from me. Was occupied by a single woman with kids for several years. So, and you know what kids do when they're growing up? They're experimenting, they're learning stuff, and stuff happens. I'm not saying that she was a bad mom or anything, but I mean, stuff happens with kids. When you got 4 of them, and it's just you can't keep an eye on all of them at the same time. So he's been in there for a month redoing that. His own hands.
Is there like cum on the ceiling or something?
I have no idea.
You should ask.
No,
Yeah,
because I still have to
blacklight
get
in
paint
there.
from him.
Ooh.
Because that was the other thing. When I had the kitchen fire in here, I fixed the damage from the kitchen fire in here.
How'd you set the kitchen on fire?
I was heating oil for chicken, and I walked away to organize some papers in the living room, and the pan went up.
Oof.
Yeah. It wasn't much damage. There was a scorch on the side of the fridge and a little bit of blistering on the walls, but other than that, it was all fine. It was all self-contained. It was a cast iron skillet, so everything stayed self-contained off of that. But, I mean, still, once again, you can call the contractor to come in and do this. All contractors are a month out, or I did it. I fixed it because he spent all his time over on that side.
It took me a week for them to fix my garbage disposal.
But onto the eviction thing, I have to wonder if with some of these people too, where they've had a lot of these, because the number blows me away. I can tell you that right off the bat. I was thinking maybe maybe 100,000 across the country was going to be the number of people who did this, because I've thought to myself, people are out there, they genuinely want to pay their bills and just go to time. And a lot of people are working from home. And then I see 11 million people are facing eviction right now. I'm like, what?
Well, 3 in 4 Americans don't have $500 in cash savings for an emergency. In 2020, USAA and Chase Bank did a study where they saw the largest number in savings account activations in almost 20 years prior to the attack on the World Trade Center on September 11th. And it comes at the worst time, though, because it's not like you're getting enough interest earned on those savings accounts from holding cash with the bank. And now you have the Fed saying that they want to go to near zero interest rates to go ahead and keep cash flow easy. So, Americans have been living on borrowed time and borrowed money for so long. And, it's why Dave Ramsey, he made a killing in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just had to tell people basic finance. There's a reason why they don't teach personal finance in schools, because you don't want the sheep thinking for themselves.
Right. And some of this does go on to the Democrat idea of they don't want upward mobility, and I truly believe that they don't.
No, and that's why you have something called, it's actually a Marxist theory. It's called post-capitalism, a post-capitalism state. It's where you basically end up in a oligarch type system where you have the insanely wealthy and the insanely poor, and there is no middle class. I saw this, between Virginia, DC, and Maryland, where the middle class is shrinking month by month in a very visible way. And people that used to think are wealthy are actually not as wealthy as you thought. So as the middle class is shrinking, they're leaving. What you have is you have extremely wealthy people who are usually tied to government contracts to the federal government directly. And then, they can work from home when the pandemic happens. But then we have to rely on the army of people who are working for Uber Eats 12 hours a day, driving Uber, working at Olive Garden and GameStop on the side, and they maybe get one day off. Mm-hmm. And it's not even their fault. They're stuck there. People are like, well, just move sometimes. I actually think that's kind of a tone deaf thing to say, because moving costs money.
It does.
Especially if what are you going to do? You're going to move and just hope you find a job soon? What are you going to do? Live in your car, live in a hotel? That's incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it can't be done. People have done it. People are very resilient. But, it gets to a point where it's like you're just working to survive and pay debt.
Yeah.
I don't ever see myself actually owning a home. I would rather rent long term and buy other assets that are generating passive income and just keep a good solid amount of cash on hand. So then when shit really gets down, I could just, cut my lease at the end of its expiration and leave. I think that's what's gonna really benefit people long term. That's really the only freedom we have: the freedom to move and the freedom to bring your cash flow with you. Because if you don't have a skill that's gonna allow you to do that, you're gonna be in an incredibly difficult position.
All right. I want to talk just a bit about some of the pushback to this, and we're going to listen to AOC again because, well, she has an interesting place to place the blame on this one. that I thought was a kind of funny to listen to.
So you've been warning that this eviction deadline was coming for weeks. Democrats control the House. You guys control the Senate. You guys control the White House. Nothing aggressive was done by leadership until just a couple days ago. Who's to blame here?
Well, you know, I think there's a couple of issues here. First of all, you are absolutely correct in that the House and House leadership had the opportunity to vote to extend the moratorium. And there were many, and there was frankly a handful of conservative Democrats in the House that threatened to get on planes rather than hold this vote. And we have to really just call a spade a spade. We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority. Now,
so where do you take that one?
Sorry, I was muted. She's become such a great politician in such a short amount of time. Usually you have to train the parrots, but this one trained herself.
All right, well, the message is pretty clear.
Fucking autoplay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really impressed. She's become a great politician in such a short amount of time. Usually you have to train the parrots, but this one seemed to have trained herself.
Yeah. She's pushing for that progressive line. And really, honestly, when we look at this, and we're going to look at some of the protests outside Pelosi's house in just a second, but I mean, the people in leadership, Schumer, who is Pelosi's lapdog, Pelosi herself, Biden, these are not progressive people. These are not progressive people. I mean, Obama dabbled with socialism in high school, but then he got into office and realized what the payouts were going to be and how great it was going to be a capitalist.
He was like, Booz Allen Hamilton is people too.
But yeah, these are not progressives, and they're looking out for the bottom line. Who is their big donor buddies own some of these buildings that haven't had rent in 11 months.
Well, I mean, you just look at the number of Americans who are homeowners, and like, it's not just going after people that run apartment complexes. It's just people who owned a home and were renting it to people. Home ownership is one of the only reliable streams of passive income that most people can ever have in their life outside of the stock market. So, I mean, you're holding everyone hostage. And don't get me wrong, I want people to have homes. I want them to be able to make their rent. But that's not to the extent that you're also going to go ahead and damn these people who still have to spend money on the house. They still have to pay the taxes. It's a liability at the end of the day. So it might as well be a cash generating liability. Now it's just a massive liability.
Yeah.
And what's to say that these people won't become squatters? I think that's going to be the big crisis that we're going to have. We're going to have a lot of people that are pulling out squatters' rights, and they're gonna, in some states like New Jersey and New York, and I think even Florida, squatters have a big amount of leeway if they can justify it with a good lawyer.
They have it here too, by the way. Take it from somebody who's taken real estate classes. They actually do too. They have it here too.
Ooh.
It's ridiculous, some of the laws that go around squatters' rights in Wisconsin.
I think you should be able to hunt those people for sport.
I disavow. Speaking of Pelosi, as I mentioned before, there was a protest outside of her house, and the woman is bringing an eviction notice to Nancy Pelosi. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Great. So we have an eviction notice for the speaker today. It says, "Dear Speaker Pelosi, you are hereby given immediate notice that millions of Americans will face eviction tonight when the eviction moratorium expires. We call upon you to immediately call Congress to session to vote to extend the eviction moratorium and keep people in their homes. We're in the midst of the second worst COVID surge to date, and this is not the time to allow evictions to begin. Housing is a human right. Hashtag eviction moratorium, hashtag eviction crisis."
My favorite part of that is the hashtags at the end. Like, what algorithm are you trying to trip here exactly?
What's funny is that's not even the house she really lives in. It's just the one she has her mail sent to. I recognize the home.
Oh goodness!
I'm surprised she didn't, you don't see the garage door raise up, and next time she's like, "Release the hound, Smithers."
Do you think this tanks the housing market?
No, because you're not going to go ahead and liquidate physical assets like that in a situation like this. You're going to find people who will want to pay for rent, especially if you're in the southern states where people are looking for a place to live and they can't necessarily afford a home. I think if anything, you're going to see them get replaced real fast. Will this lead to homelessness? Will it lead to a lot of bankruptcies? Probably, but this won't lead to a housing crisis. If anything, while interest rates are low and people are able to go ahead and purchase homes that they probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise. You've got a lot of capital investment firms like Annaly and Main Street Investment, a few others that buy into like malls and shopping plazas and commercial real estate like that, who are now starting to expand themselves into residential housing. So I think, what you're basically just going to do is you're going to go ahead, and if you sell your home, you're going to sell it for an extremely huge markup. So I see landlords in some cases getting a good payout from people that want to go ahead and either manage or develop the property. And you're going to just see the transfer move from one group of people to another. And it'll quickly dissipate once people start getting their cash flow back. So I don't think this is going to cause another housing market crisis now.
See, I was curious about that because I looked at that from the other side of this, of people who can finally get rid of their tenants and get rid of the home, or transfer the bad tenants out to a different owner, which I think a lot of the owners did their research on this. But people who can finally evict and then get rid of this, I don't think they're going to renew leases. I think they're going to evict, get rid of the people, and unload. So I thought that might have.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the few situations where we find ourselves in the odd position of it's a buyer's and seller's market, depending on where you're at. And I know that could be vague, but really, like, if you just do enough research and shake enough trees, you're going to find a buyer, you're going to buy a renter, and you're going to find a seller. Right now, you have a lot of people that were moving out of the suburbs throughout the East Coast because you had realtors and other people coming in offering them large amounts of cash, over 25% over what they would have listed the house for asking prices. So what you see is, I think the only thing that could lead to a potential housing crisis is the fact that we're overinflating the value of a single family and single family homes and stuff like that, because people are selling them for remarkable values. People in neighborhoods that have never seen a bidding war seeing bidding wars in the suburbs. So I think if anything, it's going to come down to that. But, they'll call it a crisis only because some people lost some money and others didn't. But it's not going to be like a subprime mortgage crisis or anything like that. No, we're not in that situation.
All right, let's do some live chat here. Let's see what we've got going on. Katie said, should I pull the Stephen Ignoramus rule and say, okay, no, that's sexual. I'm not going to read that out loud. No, we're not going to do that. Katie Zed says, I'm married. I don't suck dick. Poor Mr. Zed.
She's married and she doesn't do that, or she doesn't do that, period?
She's married, so she doesn't do that. Poor Mr. Zed. F's
husband.
in the chat for Mr. Zed. Seawall says, let it all burn, boys. Evict them all. Bring on the chaos. Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru is here. Ha, merry joke. Harvey McLeod says, yep, BlackRock, buying up homes and renting them back to owners or somebody else, or buy up properties and then turn them all into Section 8. See, where I used to live, it wasn't BlackRock at the time, but I'm willing to bet that right now it is BlackRock.
You know why they're getting into Section 8 housing development?
What's that? Because
it secures cash flow from the state and federal government. And if they ever want to go ahead and liquidate it, they can quickly go ahead, pay to relocate the tenants elsewhere. That was under some type of equal housing type of deal. And then they can go ahead and typically demolish that Section 8 housing for extremely cheaply and develop commercial real estate space. Turn it into a mini mall, a parking lot. Some places it's actually better to build a parking lot than as a building.
Yeah. There are places in Kenosha that are like that too. I can show you places like that. Harvey McLeod says, I lived in San Jose in 2020, tent cities galore. Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru says, it's been a nightmare hiring and retaining employees. Ron Helton is making fun of the kitchen fire, says, Jay, is it hot in here, Edgar? Harvey McLeod says, man, I feel so fortunate. Ron Helton says, everyone order their WWFD bracelets yet? What would Fauci do? Helton says, housing is a human right. If you pay for or build your own, what a dumb person. Let's see. Then he also says, this will be a repeat of 2008 times 10, lots of foreclosures and joblessness. The housing prices are higher because the material costs have risen massively. That's another one.
No.
You don't think?
No. I mean, inflation has nothing to do with the housing materials. It has to do with the fact that we were not cutting down trees. We shut down lumber factories as a result of COVID. It's only because you had an increased demand because people were buying up massive amounts of land and property with cash on hand, and then they were developing. So it became a developer's fiasco primarily. We're going to see that lumber and other building materials will go down. And that wasn't necessarily even like a Biden or a Trump thing. People would blame Trump because he put tariffs on Canada, but really like it only went up by like a fraction of the amount. The reason why they're really skyrocketing is because of just the increase in demand, the fact that they had to go ahead and bring in people, which is also difficult when you have a hiring crisis. And to say it's like 2008, like, give the government credit in the one thing they can't screw up with this one, with all the stuff that was laid into like consumer protection and subprime mortgage laws and the fall of Lehman Brothers and stuff like that. They're not giving out credit to people to buy a home that they know they can't afford. So if we're going to see evictions, if we're going to see mass foreclosures on anything like this, it's not going to come from residential real estate.
Fair point. All right, let's talk about January 6th and the commission that's come off of this. So this week marked the first hearings of the January 6th commission with the fresh new faces that Nancy Pelosi has appointed. Of course, she has her token Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who are both going to be in here. We heard statements and testimony from the police officers this week. And for the most part, not much else. Now it looks like we are going in and investigating something. There was a brief story about a phone call that Trump made, but it disappeared quickly enough that I'm pretty sure it got debunked. I don't know if you heard any of that.
News to me.
Yeah, I did put it in the stack because it disappeared so fast. I'm pretty positive it got debunked. But we'll hear some of the audio of a voicemail that was left to one of the police officers in just a few minutes, which I think is completely bunk at this point. But what have you seen on the January 6th commission so far?
I think it's gonna be a big show until they could stop raising money off of it. This is just Russiagate 2.0. Like, you have to have like the intent of an insurrection for all this. I mean, that could be a whole other episode. I've debated Chris Spangle and other people about whether or not it was an insurrection. It wasn't. Or else we can go ahead and say that, Moms Demand Action, Code Bink, the thousands more people that showed up during the Kavanaugh hearings and, tried to confront Jeff Flake and Lindsey Graham in the Senate elevators and stuff. They got closer to harming elected officials there than any elected official got, potentially harmed on January 6th. I mean, AOC was in the Cannon building, like a block away. She wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm afraid I'm going to get her. Even Mitt Romney was fine. Nobody got up to his face except at the airport when they called him a coward, which was amazing and hilarious to watch.
Yeah, we usually say selfie vest on this channel because I can't say the I word. I cannot say the I word about this thing. As much as I try to cram it down my throat, and as many articles as I read on Contemporary that say the I word, the January 6th I word, I cannot say the I word for this.
I call it a 2-year fundraising platform.
Yeah, because they're going to use this into the midterms. They're going to do so.
I mean, you still see the commercials now for some primaries going on. This person would let them destroy the country, our fragile democracy. If our government is so fragile that it could have been taken down by like anemic grandmas without teeth. Like, come on.
Or a vegan and buffalo horns.
That too.
Well, at least Stefanik pushed back. At least Stefanik pushed back a little bit in the midst of this. Let's listen to what she had to say. This one.
There is a reason that Nancy Pelosi is the most disliked elected official in America. She always puts her own partisan politics over what's best for the American people. She's an authoritarian who has broken the people's house. She is a lame duck speaker, and everyone knows it. The reason why Nancy Pelosi is refusing to seat accomplished and well-respected hardworking Republicans like Jim Jordan and Jim Banks is because she doesn't want the American people to know the truth or learn the facts. She doesn't want a fair or bipartisan investigation. She wants a political one. It is a fact that in December of 2020, Nancy Pelosi was made aware of potential security threats to the Capitol, and she failed to act. It is a fact that the U.S. Capitol Police raised concerns, and rather than providing them with the support and resources they needed and they deserved, she prioritized her partisan political optics over their safety. The American people deserve to know the truth that Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th. And it was only after Republicans started asking these important questions that she refused to seat them. House Republicans will continue to follow the truth and the facts and support our law enforcement officers to make sure this never happens again in the U.S. Capitol, the People's House. And I'm proud to turn it over.
We don't know who she was actually going to turn it over to. I find it funny, at least, that Jim Jordan was in the background nodding along with this whole video.
Yeah, he's not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's been a
this
theory.
Whole thing. Go ahead.
It's been a theory since the beginning that Nancy Pelosi knew about this, even when I first started hearing rumblings of this, we're going to go to the Capitol on January 6th, I started telling, and my regular viewers will attest to it, I started telling people, don't go. Do not go to this. You do not want to be there. I thought actually the National Guard was going to turn guns on people. I really do. I really did.
They wouldn't have done that. I mean, they didn't do that when cities were burning down during the Facebook George Floyd riots of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do it for selfie stick mom. And don't get me wrong. Like, I feel bad for the Capitol Hill police officer who had a heart attack. I feel bad for Ashley Babbitt, who was shot. I feel bad for the other officer who committed suicide. But like, I really wonder, was it a result of what specifically happened on that day, or was it the ensuing media and cultural cluster bomb that went off afterwards?
And it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just like, up is down, left is right. Am I saying what they did was right? Absolutely not. But, this whole thing, as Alex Jones would say, and I find it funny, I'm in a world where I'm quoting Alex Jones. If it looks like a false flag and it smells like a false flag, it's starting to really seem like it might be.
Oh, really? Because I always bring up the chemicals in the water.
Hey, they are turning the frogs gay.
Turning the freaking frogs gay!
I don't want them putting chemicals in the water. They're turning the friggin' frogs gay.
So, in the midst of this, two Capitol Police officers did get up and give a hearing. The one, I don't have...
Are the Democrats for back the blue now? Because it seems
only if it's ones they control. That's been one, too, that I've pointed out on numerous occasions in various chats and things, too. It's not that they don't want police, because their extensive redistributionist agenda requires police, people with guns.
Who will close down the gyms?
Yeah. Who will come and take the money away from the billionaires and give it to the good people? They just want the police that they control. They don't want the local yokel out there that, that has to look these people in the eye when they go to the grocery store. They want their shock troop army.
That's what I've been saying. Yeah, let's abolish the police and instead allow every city and county to create a full-on sheriff's department. Could you imagine what it'll be like when you have to elect your police commissioner?
Yeah, I would love that. And, that comes from I've had this discussion, too, with other friends, because, yes, they talk about the city police, like you had said, where a commissioner gets appointed, whereas I come from rural Wisconsin, like really, really small town Wisconsin, where the majority of law enforcement that I see says County Sheriff's Department on the side of it.
Yeah, I've been a fan of that for a while. Make them accountable, make them scared, make them actually want to do their jobs. There's so much safety in bureaucracy.
One of the things that came off of this, did not get. I'm trying to get the officer's name because I didn't get the article in there initially. Yeah, it was Harry Dunn, who got into a back and forth with Tucker Carlson the week before, and I didn't really cover it at that point. But Harry Dunn came out and gave. Well, it looks like my headphones are going to be dying here pretty soon. I'll get those plugged in. Harry Dunn came out and gave a very emotional testimony of how he had to deal with having racial slurs hurled at him while he was out in the front lines of this. In spite of the fact now, and given all the recordings that we've heard of everything that went off of this, you would think that they would have heard something. Somebody's cell phone would have caught people shouting the N-word at the one black Capitol police officer.
Capitol Hill police have to wear body cameras.
Yeah, there's that too.
Like,
Give me just a second.
Yeah, so I mean, all of them have. Yeah, I mean, all of them have to wear body cameras. DC police have to do it. Capitol Hill police have to do it because they're operating with the District of Columbia. If it happened, why doesn't he just release the recording?
Exactly, and we haven't seen the recording, so I'm
not saying it didn't happen. It may have happened, but you have to have evidence for that.
Yeah, and I mean that's a slam dunk for Democrats too, because then they can go off and say, "See all these back the blue people out there that look at how they treat a poor police officer using these words with them."
I mean, it's not like we don't live in Jesse Smollett's America.
I still say press X to doubt, but the other one that I have press X to doubt on came with Michael Fanone, who said that after his testimony, before his testimony, when they found out he was going to testify, he got a voicemail on his personal cell phone that was laced with expletives, and we are going to play the uncut version of that here. There's not going to be any video that goes with it, but we're going to listen to that, uncut fully. So if you've got your kids in the room, well, first off, if you've got your kids in the room while you're watching the Red Net show, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm sorry. But if you got your kids in the room, you might want to shuffle them out here in just a sec, because this one's a bad one. Let's have a listen.
The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
To listen to your messages, press 1. To send a message, press 2. To check receipt of a message, press 3. First saved message.
Yeah, this is from Michael Fanone, Metropolitan Police Officer. You're on trial right now, lying and you want an Emmy, an Oscar? What are you trying to go for here? You're so full of shit, you little faggot fucker. You're a little pussy, man. I can slap you up the side of your head with a backhand and knock you out, you little faggot. You're a punk faggot. You're a lying fuck. How about all that scummy black fucking scum for 2 years, destroying our cities and burning them and stealing all that shit out of the stores and everything? How about that, and assaulting cops and killing people? How about that, you fucker? That was shit on the goddamn Capitol. I wish they would have killed all you scumbags, because you people are scum. They stole the election from Trump, and you know that, you scumbag. And you fucking, too bad they didn't beat the shit out of you more. You're a piece of shit. You're a little fag, you fucking scumbag.
End of message. To delete this message.
So, in my eyes, that was way too on point to be grassroots.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, only through personal experience, and I don't want to get too much into it. But if you ever have to ask yourself, like, are people that stupid? The answer is yes. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
See, I have some doubts about this here because, I mean, the caller didn't identify himself. They couldn't release the number. I would have loved to see what the number was to go with that and see, if the FBI came out and said, hey, can we figure out where this is going and this is coming from? Maybe off here, but, that story kind of fell off the radar too. So,
I mean, if to your credit, if it was real, CNN would have found the person within like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and he'd have been
he would have been dragged out. He would have been fired from his work. His wife would divorce him. His children would disavow him. His bank would cut off all his stuff. Like,
is this a news story or is this a country song?
his wife divorced him and his bank cut him off and he lost his job. Yeah, like I could see that. I could see that. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
All right. The last one I want to touch on with this comes from the agriculture secretary of the state of Florida, who is currently running for governor, that is one Nikki Fried, who gleefully posted this tweet. Let me set that up here. On her Twitter account, I just suspended the concealed weapons permits of 22 people involved in the insurrection against the United States of America, instigated by Donald Trump on January 6th of 2021.
Wait, I'm sorry, the Attorney General or the
Agriculture Secretary.
How could the Agriculture Secretary do that?
Because she apparently in Florida works with licensing. So she's involved in licensing off of that.
I just suspended concealed involved. I want to know, like, were they charged with something? Like, whatever happened to proven innocent until proven guilty? Like, you can't just do that.
I was kind of impressed by this as well. She was so proud of what she said. She, in a tweet thread, posted this again in Spanish.
Oh, wow. At least she knows more Google Translate than Beto O'Rourke.
So, from what I understand, and I did do a little bit of digging into this.
As Cory Booker would say, I can't wait to say biblioteca so hard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It does look like she has the ability to suspend CCW permits as the Agriculture Secretary. She does not have the power to confiscate or strip somebody's rights, like you had said, with innocent until proven guilty, but she could suspend the CCW permit, the CCW side of it. So if they want to carry, they have to carry it out in the open, essentially.
That has to be illegal. To play devil's advocate, if these people were charged with something, is it lawful for them to do that? And if these people were not charged with something, how is it lawful for her to do that? You can't just go around and revoke these things without actual intent. I'm sorry, without an actual reason to do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is Florida, that's a shell issue too, isn't it?
In terms of how they do their concealed carry laws and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that the Secretary of Agriculture had a say over that until now, so I'm pretty, I don't really know.
That'd be worth looking into because, I mean, at that point, if it is shell issue, then they have to, if they do want to deny somebody's license, they have to have a damn good reason to do so. And I don't think just happening to be there on January 6th qualifies as a damn good reason.
I mean, I don't necessarily even like. I want to know whether it was just that. Like, let's say, like, if you own a business, you can't revoke your business license. Or if you have license to do construction, she can't go ahead and pull your permits. Like,
Yeah.
what's the extent of what she can do and what she can't do? That's what's terrifying now. If the Secretary of Agriculture of a state can take away your concealed carry permit, like, that actually is genuinely terrifying. That scares the shit out of me.
Well, she's pretty gleeful about it, and she is, by the way, running a commercial on Fox News at the same time saying, "Turn off Fox News and go get your vaccine."
So she's paying Fox News to slam Fox News. It's like Republicans paying Facebook to slam Facebook. It's all the same shit, man. My gosh.
I was going to wait till the end to do more live chat here, but there were some gems in here. I wanted to touch off that one. And I think we're actually going to move right onto the infrastructure bill because we're running up on the clock right now. And I promised you 2 hours. So let's go. Ron Helton says, sure, the prices will come down after the entire system craters. We are rapidly approaching a tipping point on money printing. Ron Helton says, how is Pelosi able to stay in power? She is mentally defunct. Casual Mining says the digital collar, CBDC, blockchain USD conversion, is going to be interesting to watch. That's how they intend to print out of this and further hide the ongoing collapse. Oh my God, Stop It, Step It, bro, over on Twitch. That's a new name. I'm about to read this out loud. Just came back from the U.S. Capitol. I'm beat. Took a nice deep sniff of AOC's seat, though. But that's what this channel has become. Aren't you glad you came for this episode?
You know, There are worse things to do on a Monday. I would much rather be me than saying that stuff in the chat.
Thank you, Step. Nephilim Ninja says
I do want to comment on the one guy who said everything's about to collapse, the dollar's collapsing. No, it's not. Like what I think, and you know, this is gonna lose me some libertarian points. You think the big billionaires and stuff want us to reach a point of hyperinflation? You think the U.S. government literally wants to print itself out of existence? And as long as we're still the world reserve currency, that still gives us that. And when people are like, well, you know, our money's backed by nothing, it's backed by U.S. military presence in almost every country. And on top of that, you know, I don't think we're going to go towards a digital currency because the Constitution even says that you have to have 30% of your reserves in paper cash. So like I'm tired of hearing this. Oh, we're going to collapse. Is inflation good? No. Is hyperinflation the possibility? Yeah. But you know, this type of doomsday preppership, you know, when it comes to that, you have to think, what are the rich people doing to protect themselves? And what they understand is that when you print money, when you redistribute wealth through stimulus, all it does is go back to them. And then what do? They acquire assets. Go read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It talks all about that. Take debt to generate cash flow to pay off debt to make more money. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I will go against you on that and say that yes, we do have we do have a problem with doomsday prepping and people being freaked out about that. But do also keep in mind that you should still be prepped.
Oh, absolutely. The past years show that they're usually more right than wrong. This gentleman who I've been going back and forth with, he's right about 90% of it. I'm not joshing them. I would rather that person be in my camp than not.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even just like what the government's going to do or what they're going to collapse off of there. Tornadoes happen. Ice storms in Texas in the middle of February happen.
BLM happens.
Have a can of beans on your shelf because the emergency services might not be able to get to you. And if you never need it, you can have a cool taco night one night.
There you go. I love everyone in the chat. They're awesome.
Yeah. Let's talk just a bit about the infrastructure bill, and we might do some COVID stuff too to finish it out here. Because I don't have a lot on the infrastructure bill because they're doing it right now, essentially. They brought it down to the floor to debate. But as of this point, NPR... I can do my NPR voice if everybody out there really needs me to do my NPR voice off of this. NPR...
Soft subliminal noises.
National
Brought
Progressive
to you
Radio.
by...
Senate advances bipartisan infrastructure deal. So over the last weekend, they started debating, started seeing what they could bring out, and seeing how they could get everybody down to it. There was a procedural motion at this point that was approved 67-32, with 17 Republicans joining all Democrats to begin legislative action. So at this point, we don't have the infrastructure bill ready to go to the House yet, but they were able to bring it down to the floor for debate. Where it goes from here, I have no idea, but there were 17 Republicans that got on board with it. Looks like the deal includes $110 billion for roads, bridges, and other major projects, $11 billion for transportation safety programs, $39 billion in transit modernization and improved accessibility, $66 billion in rail, $7.5 billion to build a national network of electric vehicle chargers, and $73 billion in power infrastructure and clean energy transmission. So what's your take on the fact that this is to the floor?
Man, I wish I was a rich person with a Tesla. You're telling me that I'm going to get poor people to go ahead and pay for my electric charging ports?
Apparently.
Listen, man, as Nancy Pelosi would probably tell you, it doesn't matter how many brown kids are going to die from bombs, that when this is eventually going to go towards a whole bunch of expansion in the Middle East, everything is infrastructure. Up is down, left and right. Cats eat dogs. This is going to get passed, and then everyone's going to celebrate it. And then when they don't need to celebrate it anymore, they're going to make money off of it around the midterms. I just hope that people understand that when you get your stimulus check, I hope you're saving it or investing it or doing something useful, because if you're just giving it to Jeff Bezos, that's all for nothing. Save yourself.
I spent the money to broadcast a pirate signal against all these people. $1,000 sitting here next to my knee. Thank you, Seawall, by the way, for helping me
There
put
you
that
go.
together. One of the people in the chat spent 4 hours on a Discord call with me, helping me put all this whole thing together.
Oof, that's commitment.
So, and you always got to thank the people where thanks are due. So that's what we see here. Biden has hailed this infrastructure deal, of course. He says it's a sign that democracy can function. President Biden on Wednesday hailed a bipartisan infrastructure deal as a signal that to the world that our democracy can function, deliver, and do big things while acknowledging there remains plenty of work to get the bill passed. Now, at the point that we're sitting, the bill has not passed. They still need to have 10 senators on board to make sure that it gets through the Senate so it can go up to the House.
Romney, Murkowski, Ron Johnson.
I don't know. I don't know if Johnson's doing. I think he's too dedicated to the queue at this point. He might run again.
I could tell you 2 people who will not vote for it: Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about cinema in just a second here, too, on what could happen next off of this. So you think that they could possibly get 10 to this?
Oh, yeah. Because what they're going to do is they're going to say, we were the ones that were bipartisan and looked over it. Then what they're going to do is they're going to scrap it and send it back to the House and say, fix it again.
Oh, like a Ford. You know what Ford stands for, don't you? Stands
Don't
for
buy
fix
this.
it again, Tony. Dale, you're thinking of a Fiat. The opening line of King of the Hill, the entire series, the opening line of that entire series was that right there.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, that raises the question then, if they can get to the 10 people there, I don't know if this will go to the House, because the House is still on its laurels over, and they're all sore because they're not getting the spending that they want out of it and the spending package that they passed. But we also look back and we see that what were we promised? If we can get this one passed by filibuster, then the other one, the rest of Biden's spending, can go past on budget reconciliation, which only takes 50 votes.
In the Senate?
Yeah. Yeah, reconciliation doesn't need to pass the filibuster.
It needs a simple majority, not an overwhelming majority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Huh. Oh, well. Guess we're going to be getting some checks soon.
And that tacks on another $3.5 trillion for child care costs, healthcare costs, healthcare expansions, and what they call human infrastructure.
Well, what's an extra $3 billion? I'm sorry, $3 trillion or billion?
$3.5 trillion.
What's another $3.5 trillion amongst the Fed and the Friends?
Well, we can take heart out, because I said we were going to talk about Kirsten Sinema. Sinema doesn't support Democrats' $3.5 trillion bill, clinches bipartisan infrastructure deal. So she voted to move everything forward on the debate for the infrastructure bill. But she has said she's not going to vote for the reconciliation bill that's supposed to come after this. So that means they have to sell it to at least one Republican.
Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski.
Reading from AZ Central, a division of USA Today, Senator Kirsten Sinema does not support Democrats' $3.5 trillion budget plan that aims to deliver major components of President Biden's economic agenda that Democrats hope to pass after moving a separate bipartisan infrastructure deal that Sinema negotiated. Sinema told the Arizona Republic on Wednesday she had reviewed the Senate Budget Committee's spending framework and has told the Senate leadership and Biden that she supports many of its goals, including job growth and American competitiveness. I've also made clear that while I support the beginning of this process, I do not support a bill that costs $3.5 trillion, and in the coming months I will work in good faith to develop this legislation with my colleagues and the administration to strengthen Arizona's economy and help support Arizona's everyday families to get ahead, Sinema said in a written statement.
I have such a crush on this woman.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like her too, actually.
No, like I really like her. I like her. I like her a lot.
No, I mean just the theatrics that come out of it. Because remember, what was it?
She's so awesome.
What bill was it? The minimum wage bill.
Where she shot that
down. She didn't just shoot that down. She walked up to the desk where they were collecting the votes and went.
And then she went ahead and stomped on it with her knee-high boots. It was so awesome.
I remember that. That was great.
So
that was a good
awesome.
time.
Isn't she so awesome?
Yeah.
She's so awesome.
Jury is still out on whether Manchin will support the $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill. That's what we're going to call this off of here. But
He knows none of that is going to West Virginia. None of that's going to West Virginia.
Well, I know when what was it? When they had the Texas Democrats go to Washington, D.C. and hide out there, which is another hilarious story, by the way, and I didn't think we were going to have the time to cover today, but when they went to D.C. because they wanted to go beg him for the For the People Act, he went down and went to a fundraiser in fucking Texas.
Oh, man. This is such a weird timeline. Well, we're having to rely on Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin because we know we can't rely on most Republicans.
Yeah, there's no reliance on Republicans. I don't know. Now, I did want to go push back a little bit on what's in the infrastructure bill because you had pointed out that you can have poor people pay for your electricity for your Tesla, so you kind of want to get a Tesla even though you can't buy one in our state. Because of the way they structure their dealerships, it's against the law to sell it. Let me rephrase that. It's not against the law to sell a Tesla in Wisconsin, but it's against the law to have a dealership under, and I forget what the structure is that makes it against the law, but it's against the law for them to have that structure of dealership in here. And Elon Musk won't change his dealership structure.
Sounds like his problem. I don't like those carports. We end up having to pay for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not directly paying to fuel their cars, but we have to pay for a lot of the development construction that goes into it. It's actually a net positive. It's a net negative on the taxpayer. So it's one of those few things where it's like, that doesn't bother me. Charge it at home.
Well, that's one of the other questions, because I know you come from Virginia, you pointed out, and you've probably seen a little bit more of this. I've seen the charging ports in various places because I used to work in Madison. So I was up there all the time. Like, I've gone to the Hy-Vee, and this was before a lot of this was taxpayer, where they'd have the charging ports outside the Hy-Vee. And I know that Hy-Vee paid for that. Like, private industry has paid for a lot of that stuff, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird situation. Overwhelmingly, I could tell you that the number of private businesses that are doing that is remarkably lower than the number of businesses that are going to try and take either grants or tax credits in order to build it, because then it just becomes an added burden on the taxpayer to try and do that.
Well, and I'm not surprised Hy-Vee did it on their own.
That's kind of, I guess that's kind of protectionist in a way, but it's like, I don't like subsidizing other people's decisions, whether you're rich or poor.
Yeah.
I'm not paying to charge your fucking Tesla.
Does it? Because I've never had to use one because, I've got the white F-150 with a 5-liter sitting outside. I've never had to use a charging station like that. Does it cost you something to plug it in at a private place like that?
Yeah, you have to pay, and you pay a premium on it. But in order to actually set up the lines to connect to major power grids and everything else, and then the maintenance and everything else, the costs don't usually add up, because what you're looking at is what you're betting on is that you're getting enough through traffic to go ahead and justify that. So usually there's no studies or surveys or anything done to really justify it. What you have is you have politicians and other people trying to incentivize it, because it's actually a gentrification act. Because if you think there are people here that can afford to do that, you can. But if you try and build those things in downtown Milwaukee, I'm telling you, no one's going to go to your Stop and Stab gas station anyway to fill up their electric car. I'm sorry. It's not good for you, and it's certainly not good for anybody else.
And I mean, this is also the same Milwaukee where down on 5th and Beecher, while they were in the middle of trying to put out a fire, somebody walked up and started stealing shit off the fucking fire truck.
Dude, I have a steering wheel lock on my Kia because somebody's still going around stealing Kia and Hyundais left and right in Milwaukee.
We talked about that on Contemporary. I was like, dude, I read the letter that Milwaukee sent to Kia and Hyundai. I said, hey, make your cars harder to steal because we don't have the resources to go after them right now.
Yeah, so I mean, the cops have basically given up. They're like, we're never finding your car. And what's funny is they're blaming Chicago. They're saying it's a crime syndicate from Chicago that's grabbing cars from Milwaukee. But it's just like, you know what? Like, I never even had to put a steering wheel lock on my car in DC. I had to do that when I moved here. There are like 30 people in Milwaukee. What the hell?
And I can't really speak on DC because the majority that I saw of DC was coming into there in the dead of night in Tenleytown and then getting up right away the next morning in Tenleytown, going straight down to the fucking Potomac and getting on 95.
That's about as much of it as you want to see.
Yeah, we got the fuck out of there as quick as we could. Dude, Steven used to live there. I don't know if you ever ran across him while you were down there.
Which
Steven
Steven?
Ignoramus?
No.
Yeah. He did a lot of streaming down from the St. George riots downtown.
St. George, blessed be fentanyl.
All right. I got one last one that we're going to do here. A little bit of surprise stupidity for you. Now, unfortunately, TikTok has taken the video down, which is probably good because I've already been dinged and blocked. I had one of my videos blocked for playing the video anyway. But here is another headline, just like the one that we talked about with Susan Sarandon before, that I never thought that I would ever have to read out loud.
Is Melissa Milano back?
No.
Oh.
It's even weirder, especially given who this woman's brother is, by the way. So to read from The Blaze, I'm actually going to put this on the screen because nobody else is going to believe me when I say this. To read from The Blaze, Candace Cameron Bure is forced to apologize for sexy and seductive Holy Spirit-themed Bible video.
We could probably find it on Pornhub.
Probably, actually. That's actually not a bad suggestion. I'm not going to lie.
You can find Ron Paul speeches on Pornhub.
I've never tried to do that.
No, like I'm dead serious. The only reason why I say that with a matter of certainty is because I know a lot of people who did like political content and stuff like that, where it was taken down by YouTube and other things. And they were like, yeah, man, I had to start posting on Pornhub. And I'm like, what? Yeah, he's like, yeah, they have no standards.
I've seen some of the stuff that hits Pornhub, and yes, they have no standards. Reading from The Blaze, Christian actress Candace Cameron Bure has issued an apology for a TikTok video which she lip-synced a Lana Del Rey song while holding a Bible.
Which song?
I'll tell you in just a second. Critics of the video said that Bure was too sexy and her attitude too seductive for the subject matter, which we watched the video before they actually took it down off TikTok, and I can see that. I could definitely see that.
The number one song of 2020 was WAP.
Yeah.
I doubt this woman did anything near that.
Which was apparently the power of the Holy Spirit. What are the details of this video? Bure, according to Thursday Report from Page 6, shared the TikTok video this week, which was captioned, "When They Don't Know the Power of the Holy Spirit." Bure lip-synced to Del Rey's Jealous Girl, featuring lyrics such as, "Baby, I'm a gangster too, and it takes two to tango. You don't want to dance with me, honey, I'm in love with you." In the video, Bure straightens her hair, smiles, and reaches for her Bible and shows it off to viewers. And that's not all that she was doing, by the way. It was a very steamy, sultry video, and I'm kind of pissed that they took it down.
I'm kind of pissed that they took it down, too.
I would have taken the blocked video just to show that one more time.
Oh, I see it.
I did find videos of them showing but they didn't have the music behind it, where it was like a 5-minute Yahoo News clip of, this is what Candace Cameron did, and they showed like the 30 seconds off of it. It was...
Did she apologize for it? Like, how was her response?
She has apologized for it. What is she saying now? In an ephemeral Instagram video, Bure addressed the controversy and said, "I usually don't apologize for these things, but a lot of you thought it was weird, and I'm sorry. That was not my intention."
Cancel culture wins again.
I was using a very specific clip from TikTok and applying it to the power of the Holy Spirit, which is incredible, she said. And so many of you thought I was trying to be seductive, which clearly means I'm not a very good actress because I was trying to be strong, not sexy or seductive.
It's not her fault she's so hot.
She is. I'm not even going to lie.
No one watches those Hallmark movies for the compelling story.
Or Fuller House, for that matter.
No.
That's what I have. And then, yeah, I mean, right there. Video currently unavailable. Right where it was before.
Cancel culture.
That's what I have. And it doesn't look like we had any more live chat after that, so I think we're going to head out of here for the day. Let's throw some music up. Well, let's get the scene switch back up to where it's supposed to be. Let's throw some music up, I think, and let's head out of here for the day. What do you think?
I appreciate you having me on. 2 hours went by too fast.
All right, so thank you, Remso, for coming by, hanging out with us, and discussing the news with me. We have no word when Elaine is going to be back yet, but there's some things going on in the household. If you want to know more about that, I'm not at liberty to say. Go and ask her. It's not bad stuff. She's pretty.
She hit a homeless man.
She hit a homeless man. Yeah, so you can go and check her out. But otherwise, yes, I'll be back here tomorrow morning for more contemporary, 7 a.m. bright and early. So come back and hang out and give me some more live chat off of that. That's always a great time. Always love to see you. See you guys in there. If you guys want to check out my guest co-host today, Remso, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Find me at On the Run with Remso W. Martinez on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts across Al Gore's amazing internet. And find me on Twitter at HeyRemso, HeyRemso.
Definitely go and check that out. Great follow. And I'm actually glad that Brady had you on so many times because now I know who you are and now we get to have this conversation. So definitely go and check that out as well. And lastly, before we head out of here, make sure you're checking out my friends, the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. The last episode of The Generational Gap, by the way, is tonight, so go and check them out, see them off. Or you can check out the Freckles and Brit show as well, or the R-Rated Conservative. He streamed once again this week, but he's in the middle of a move, so he hasn't been as active lately. But you can go check out all of them across our great upcoming project that I did tease a little bit in the beginning of the show, but that will be coming up here in the near future, so go and check that out as well. And lastly, as I always say on this program, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Remso, why don't you lead them out with some last words?
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Take care, everyone. You guys have a great night.